and I'm going to show you what the empirical formula is and how to find the empirical formula in a given problem. Okay, so the empirical formula is used as a standard for most ionic compounds such as CaCl2, also known as calcium chlorine. By definition, an empirical formula is a formula that gives the simplest whole number mole ratio of atoms in an ion compound. These mole ratios are represented by subscripts in the empirical formula. So in CaCl2, 2 is the mole ratio of chlorine in this compound. Okay, so step 1. To determine the empirical formula, you're going to start by converting the mass of each element to moles. In the problem, you are going to be given the number of grams for each element. Some problems give you percentages, but you just have to simply assume that the total mass is 100 grams. So with that, the mass of each element equals the percentage given. Okay, so now to convert from grams to moles, you're going to divide the mass of each element by their molar mass, which is found in the periodic table. Okay. So step 2. Once you have converted each element to moles, you then divide each mole value by the smallest number of moles you calculated. Okay, so for example, if your mole values were 0.337, 0.675, 0.668, 0.337 is your smallest value, so you divide each by 0.337. Okay. So step 3, with that finished, you can now round each to the nearest whole number. Sometimes you will get a number that is too far to round, but you just simply multiply each solution by the same factor, so you can get the lowest whole number multiple. So for example, if one solution is 1.5, then you multiply each solution in the problem by 2. And 1.5 times 2 is 3, so 3 will be your mole ratio. And another example is if your solution is 1.25, you multiply each solution in the problem by 4. And 1.25 times 4 equals 5, so 5 will be your mole ratio. Okay. So once that is settled, you can now apply each mole ratio to each element, and finally, the result, you get the empirical formula. So now with all these steps and details in mind, I will now show you an example problem and the steps to get the empirical formula. Here we have NutraSweet is 57.14% carbon, 6.16% hydrogen, 9.52% nitrogen, and 27.18% oxygen. We are to calculate the empirical formula of NutraSweet. So what I did here first was change the percentage to grams, because from step 1 we know that the mass of each element equals the percentage given. So now we are ready to convert the grams to moles. And to convert grams to moles, we are to divide each by its molar mass, which is found in the periodic table. So for carbon, the molar mass is 12.01, hydrogen is 1.01, nitrogen is 14.01, and oxygen is 16. And we just plug that in the calculator. And this becomes 4.76 moles C. This becomes 6.10 moles H. And this becomes 0.68 moles N. And oxygen becomes 1.70 moles. So for the second step, we have to divide each, or find the smallest mole value, and that is 0.68. So we divide each by 0.68. This becomes 7 moles. This becomes 8.97 moles. 1 mole. And 2.5 moles. And now the last step, we have to round each and make sure they are in their whole numbers. So 8.97 becomes 9 moles. 2.5 is one of those numbers that are too far to round, so we have to multiply each solution by the same factor. So for 2.5, we have to multiply it by 2. And so we multiply the rest of the solutions by 2 as well. So this finally becomes 14 moles. This is 18 moles, 2 moles, and 5 moles. Finally, we can now apply these mole ratios to form the empirical formula for NutraSweet.